What's going on, guys? This is episode 11 of the Outlaws podcast. We've got Andy Bentley here, friend of the pod. She's been on a previous episode that is not able to be seen anymore.
You make it seem like it was so scandalous.
It was. We talked about everything, and Spotify removed us. They took it down.
Such a shame. One day it might be able to be released again, but we'll just wait and see.
They froze our bank accounts. You know, me and Andy had to go ghost for a few months, but things have relaxed since then. It's lovely to have you on. Thank you for coming. So this episode we're talking about digital ID, which is going to be officially released December the 10th.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, it already exists.
Yep.
But the legislation going into place on December 10th is the Under 16s on Social Media Act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Andy's she's been playing around with some fun reels and opening up more, I would say, politically and just to more of her strong beliefs. And we were really excited to have you on because we feel like Australians should be talking about the things that matter to them and to their own passionate beliefs. You know, we are a passionate nation, and talking about the things that mean most to us is important. So thank you for coming on, Andy.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really proud of Andy, actually. I think since you've started posting all this sort of stuff, I've been like actually sending your reels into the boys and being like, yo, Andy's so sick, this is epic. So I'm really excited to hear a little bit about where the change kind of shifted for you from, you know, you've kind of told us a little bit before around where you came from in terms of your political views and bits like that, and now you're obviously sharing this stuff online. So for you, where has that shift happened? Have you just been reading more? Like what's the process been like for you?
I think my process would be, I've been raised very fight for your freedoms and ask questions and why are they doing this? And I think I used to be like, oh, Dad, you're crazy. Like, why are we talking about this? This is ridiculous. And then I think classic, you come full 180. And then I actually started watching a girl called Brett Cooper in Australia. In America.
Yep.
You guys heard of her?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's lovely. And I feel like she does such a good job at promoting traditional values and just kind of questioning the system, but also in a light-hearted-ish way. I don't really like listening to, no offense, guys, but really masculine men who are yelling, be like, you need to care about this. I'm like, oh my God, I'm scared. So I think that kind of opened the doors to having different ideas put in front of me. And I was like, okay, this kind of makes sense, and just being a bit more open-minded. And then I recently started posting more, you could say, controversial content, because I kind of got to a point where I was like, I'm actually sick of pretending like I don't have these views. I've had these views for a very long time. And I think during COVID, I feel like I didn't speak up, and I'm kind of mad at myself for not doing that. And so now I'm like, you know what, I want to talk about these things. I do want to present them in a kind, loving way. I don't want to be hateful towards people who have different views. I actually have a lot of my friends who do have similar views, but then other friends who have very opposite. My best friend and I have very, very different views on politics, health, but then we just lovingly respect each other's views, and we can have discussions and not hate on each other. So I think this content is more to open up conversations and different views.
Yep.
So yeah, that's where it came from.
I love it.
You say that they're controversial views, but it's not really anything extreme.
No,
it's just
not
on one end of the spectrum. But places Australia and Britain as a whole, these are viewed as controversial because we're very left-leaning countries.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you think that's controversial, but just to clarify, they're really not. They're just on a different spectrum. More traditional values, right?
Yeah.
I would say that our political institutions lean very left, whereas the average person doesn't hold those views. So we're being sort of led from the top down by a group of people who hold different ideals than the majority of the population do.
Yeah.
So I think it's really great that people like Andy, who are less extreme, it's nice to have a softer, less hectic image of somebody talking about these things, because if it's always somebody like me coming on really angry, it paints those views in a certain light. So it's very nice to have somebody like you also carrying this torch.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And today is going to be really fun. It's going to be a nice open forum where we're just going to discuss everyone's kind of ideas and ideals around this and potential solutions and the impact that this may have on you. So I hope that this gets a lot of reach and a lot of people are able to get their ears and eyes on this episode, because it is going to affect you in the future. And I think if you care about your future, it's really important to at least give yourself some understanding around this. So that's kind of where we want to lead into, and we are discussing digital ID today. So I want to start off, anyone can kind of kick it off, but what is digital ID first off, and how would you kind of conceptualize it, I suppose? Marky, if you want to start.
Yeah.
Everyone looks to Marcus.
Yeah, he's our on-field international relations
He really
agent.
is.
He does all the research before the podcasts. He's the most educated when it comes to these kind of stuff. So I'd love you to take it away, brother.
I've got a definition in front of me from Privacy International, which is like a non-government organization who looks into issues like this across the world. And they define it as a government-issued persistent digital credential that is usable across public and private services. So that includes banks, telecommunication companies, employers as well. It can be tied to behavioral or transaction metadata and combined with other data sets. It supports remote authentication, and it could be used for automated decisions for accessing certain government programs, benefits, and potentially restricting you without human input.
Yeah, I when I kind of first heard about digital ID, I feel like I didn't really have like a real grasp on what it is, and I found it actually really hard to define and like identify where it was going to go, purely from the standpoint of I was like, okay, maybe they can take us off social media, but like then when going in deeper and actually kind of seeing the potential steps and tiers to where this could go, that's when it kind of became a little bit more concerning, only because of the experiences that I've had in the past leading from COVID and then moving forward. It just feels like another form of that in a way. But there's so many ways, like what does it look like functionally in society? What does it actually look like? I don't think it's actually been defined perfectly yet, which I think is what this is all about.
Yeah, I feel like anything Australia does that seems important, it's just like this really vague kind of like, you remember the Aboriginal, what was it, the vote?
Yeah, the voice.
The voice. No one knew what it really meant. We just had to vote for it. And I think most people voted no because it was like, well, what is this? Why is this going to change anything?
They didn't actually define what the specific legislative changes would be. And when you're putting forward a referendum, you need to have really stringent, strict, specific language so that people can actually identify what the change is going to be. And anytime you see a vague law being passed or trying to be passed, that is essentially the government trying to bring in this like Trojan horse that sounds okay. Like, do we want Aboriginals to have a voice in Parliament? If you look at that statement, obviously everybody's going to say, yes, they're a part of this country. But what does that look like specifically? And I think that's one of the key issues with this digital ID coming in. It's not the first iteration of it. It is what's called function creep, where something comes in a fairly innocuous manner, in a fairly innocuous state, but then over time, with that legal precedent set, you can't really repeal things like this. Once they're there forever, and they tend to grow rather than shrink over time. And the functions that they enable gradually grow and grow and grow until you've got this leviathan, this monster that is ever persistent in every facet of life. And that is what this digital ID is going to be.
Yeah. I think for most people listening who don't know anything about digital ID, they're probably like, oh, digital ID, it's just having my license online. It's just like having a digital passport. Like, what could be wrong with that? And I think that's so fair that people think that, because when I've had discussions with people, they're like, yeah, but it's just like convenient way if I don't remember my license. And it's like, I think if it stopped there and it was simply literally just your online license. Well, that's pretty fine. But I think it's when it's linked to everything else. So there's this like diagram on the World Economic Forum, which basically has it showing that in the future, these digital IDs will be linked to your bank account, your right to work, your healthcare, your social media, your Google, like literally everything you could possibly want to access is going to be linked to that. And I think that's where the problem is. It's not this concept of like, oh, it's just like this convenient thing to confirm your identity.
No.
It's when it's linked to everything. That's where the issues happen.
In Australia, we're a cheeky bunch.
Every country is though. Like,
Yeah, but I say some crazy things to my friends, or I'll send them something crazy that's offensive, but purposely offensive, and you don't ever get that context. If my search history or my Instagram reels is linked to my digital ID, they're going to know Reese Terry is a massive racist, anti-Semite, bigoted, misogynist. And that's their opinion because of the stuff that I'm looking at. But I'll just look up weird, crazy stuff for any reason, and they will never get the context of that. They're never next to me understanding why I'm searching for something.
I will say, even though they don't have that infrastructure in the public sector yet, which means government, they do have that infrastructure in the private sector through Palantir.
Yes.
So there are companies out there that do collate all of your metadata from social media usage. TikTok is another one. And they do log it, and they do keep lists of who is saying what. And just because it's not actively used by the government in the public sector does not mean that that's not happening in the private sector. But this type of legislation is what will allow them to cross that bridge. And a private company isn't able to influence how you live your life, but the government is. And I feel like any area like this where the government is taking a big power grab in the fields of surveillance or determining what kind of behavior is acceptable in society, that is something that should be fought at all costs.
Well, I think it's important to talk about why they are implementing it. And there's obviously a bunch of reasons. There's an ulterior motive potentially, or there's what they're saying it is. And the reason why they're implementing the digital ID, from their words, is to protect children from seeing content that they shouldn't have access to, right?
yeah. So also a lot of people don't know about this, like under 16 ban coming in. So do you guys want to talk about that?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Because like a lot of people genuinely have no idea about that this is coming in. This is coming in soon because like we're mid-November, literally
Yeah,
a
less
month,
than
and
a
so
month.
many people don't know about it. And it's like that's why this podcast is important, because I want people to leave this knowing all the information, and then they can make a choice that makes like the right choice for them. You know, we're not saying don't get it. If you listen to this whole podcast and you think, nah, I don't care if any of those things happen, and you still choose to get it, then that's fine. But it's just like you need to have the information. Otherwise, you're just going to blindly sign up thinking, oh, it's just because they need to confirm I'm over 16 because they don't want under 16s being here, which sounds wholesome and it sounds
So
like a
harmless.
good agenda. Yeah. But it's not.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
it's anything
and
but.
we're going to get into it. Straight into it. Okay, yeah, go on, Marcus.
Do you want to talk about what's happening in this new bill here in Australia?
Like with the under 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think like basically in a easy way, the government is mandating that all social media apps like TikTok, Instagram, X, YouTube, maybe even Reddit, I think, is
Yeah.
on there. Basically, they're saying you have to confirm your identity. And one of the choices will be to say you can link your digital ID to confirm it. There are other options. Like I think you can upload your like physical ID,
Yeah.
or you can do like a face scan and it will see like whether you look under 16 or not, which I'm pretty screwed for. I look quite young. But all of those to me don't feel right because it's still tying your identity to your social media, which I really don't agree with.
I think that a glaring issue in this piece of legislation is they're claiming that it's to prevent children from accessing platforms that they're not allowed to under law anyway, but they have omitted any pornographic websites. It's all just social medias. They're not saying you can't access Pornhub. They're not saying you can't access whatever else people are watching. If this was really about protecting children, you would exclude those pornographic websites.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't understand how they've left this open. It's like, this is so easy to argue against because there's this glaring hole in their own argument. We want to protect kids, but if you want to watch the craziest shit you can see on Pornhub, go for it.
Yeah.
But can you see anything on Instagram? No.
No. And they're saying only 16-year-olds have to prove their identity, but in order to prove you're not 16, you have to. So it's like a tricky way of being like, oh, only like we're only protecting the 16-year-olds, but every single person has to prove their identity to prove they are over 16.
Yeah.
Which is the big issue here.
If I'm 16 years old and I'm like, if you're trying to articulate to me as a 16-year-old why I shouldn't get it, because I feel like a lot of 16-year-olds won't have the political or understanding at all to make an actual justified decision around how this could affect their future. I know if I was 16 and someone said to me, I need to have to do this to be able to go on YouTube and social media and talk to all my friends, immediately I'm saying, yeah, I'm going to do whatever it takes. So how would you, everyone can kind of, come in here and discuss what you would say to an actual 16-year-old or even 17, 18, like young people in Australia, where they're obviously targeting this too in some capacity. What would you say to them to, one, give them some understanding of how this could affect them? Okay, they're going to, I need to have to upload all this to travel overseas. What's the problem with that? Like if that was to be an argument from someone that was just listening and going, for example, I sent the to sign, just the petition to sign that we don't want digital ID in Australia to my cousin, my sister, my mum, my dad, like heaps of people around me. And a lot of them signed it because I did explain a little bit about potential what would happen. But what would actually you say to someone that you sent that petition to be like, okay, what is the big deal around this?
I would say that what I said before, this is essentially a Trojan horse, and what they're saying that we're going to get and what we're actually going to get 10 years down the line are two totally different things.
Okay. And what are we going to get 10 years down the line that in my future that's going to really impact me so much?
We can look at countries that already have implemented digital ID systems like this and they're heavily incorporated in their society. India is one of these countries. They have biometric scans that you have to take in order to get a digital ID. And without a digital ID, you're not able to open up a bank account. You're not able to buy a SIM card for a phone. You're not allowed to access any government grants. So they have created a two-tier system within their society where rural, impoverished people who don't have access to any of these things are unable to collect these grants. They're unable to get a SIM card. They're unable to open a bank account. In Nigeria, actually, which is another country that has gone down this road quite extensively already, they forcibly closed, I think, 35 million bank accounts because people missed compliance dates for signing up to this digital ID. So it is not just, I want to talk to my mates on Instagram and watch some funny cat videos. It is to what extent are they going to impact my life 10 years from now once this system is implemented? And it is totally comprehensive. That is their plan. It's not, and it doesn't just stop there at what they've got in India and Nigeria. It's going to be linked to movement throughout smart cities where everything is constantly connected to a Wi-Fi. You are going to be tracked by facial recognition and your geolocation from your phone, which is always hopping from thing to thing to thing. And then they can implement something called geofencing, where you need to get permission to move from zone to zone. Like, this is all publicly available on the World Economic Forum's plans for the future, Agenda 2030. They are, for some reason, they're proud of all of these authoritarian, draconian measures that they want to implement. And it's really a case of death by 1,000 cuts, or the boiling frog analogy, where if you take a frog and you put it into a jar of boiling water, it will immediately jump out. But if you put a frog into a cold jar of water and you gradually bring it to the boil, the frog will actually stay in there until it dies, because it can't register the gradual change in temperature, but it can register a big hit like that.
Yeah. And like, that's exactly what happened during COVID, right? They were like, they created all this scariness, like, that? And then they were like, oh, you can get the vaccine if you want. It's a choice. And then suddenly they're like, well, actually, if you don't get it, we're going to take a lot of your freedoms away from you. And then they're like, you just got to get it. And then you'll have this, COVID passport. And then you'll be able to go do these things. Like in Australia, it got to a point where you literally couldn't go anywhere apart from the shops and I believe the library if you didn't get the COVID jab. Yeah. But literally couldn't go get a cup of coffee, couldn't go to a bar, couldn't go to the gym, whatever. Like you wouldn't be able to do that. And then they're like, just get, if you just get the jab, then you'll have this thing that will let you do it. So then people like, a lot of people who didn't want to get it were like, okay, I'll get it. And then they get it. And then they come back around and then they're like, oh, well, actually your COVID passport's not going to be valid until you get another one. And so then they go get another one. And then they're like, well, actually, guys, so sorry. But actually there's a third one. Yeah, you got to get a third one. So it's just like you give them an inch and they will take a mile. And it's like, everybody's like, yeah, but it's just to like use social media. And it's like, okay, but what happens if they're then like, well, then you need it for your bank. You need it to work. You need it to rent. You need it to travel. You need it for everything. And then we get to a place where everything is linked. Again, when it's just like one thing, it's okay. If it's just for social media and it stayed that way, it's probably okay. But it's when it's linked to everything. And I really think it's so much easier to not get it, hold off, see what happens. And if you think, okay, well, it's not actually going to shit like I thought it would, okay, well, you can go get it. But it's very hard to undo these things.
Yeah, so similarly, like, for example, we know that there's negative impacts on health of the COVID vaccine. So there's actually a negative that we can see from this that is now, accumulated in society. So, for example, all the heart stuff that's happening with
all
people.
The conspiracy
and all the conspiracy,
right.
all the conspiracy theorists were right in regards to what was going to happen from people potentially getting the COVID vaccine and that sort of thing. Are we just going to repeat history in the sense of there's going to be a lot of negative effects of this? So, for example, I'm someone that goes, all right, that all sounds like I'm going to be able to travel. I'm going to still be able to do this. What is the big deal if it's linked to my bank? What actual negative effects does it have on my life if everything is tied into one?
Yeah.
Like for COVID, we actually had we can see the negative effects now. What is, for that person that decides to get everything versus the person that decides that they're not going to do digital ID, what are the negative connotations of that for that person?
The really scary stuff happens not from this digital ID, which just links a bunch of services together and is a unique identifier for you as a person. Like, I don't like the idea of people knowing what I'm up to at every moment, but the actual dangers come when they implement other things like a central bank digital currency, which is then tied to your unique hash identifier, whatever they want to call it. And
wait, for people who don't know what that is, can you just explain? Because not everyone's going to know that.
Yeah. All right. So a central bank digital currency uses the technology that was built for cryptocurrencies, but where a traditional blockchain like Bitcoin is decentralized, meaning that it runs off of a network of nodes that are operated by private individuals. So you'll have hundreds or thousands of different nodes across the world, which are all working together to maintain their system. They have an open ledger, which is viewable to anybody, and every transaction on that ledger is immutable. It can't be changed afterwards. And it is validated privately through group consensus, and it's impossible for one person to determine which transactions are validated or which transactions go through and which transactions are denied. Where you have everything in the one node under a central bank digital currency, you have one validator, which is the central bank of a given country. And if you have been a naughty boy, and as Reese was saying, you've sent some racist memes to your friends, they actually have the power to lock your bank account. It's programmable, which means that they can implement things like Great Britain is doing this right now, actually. They're releasing a CBDC and they are implementing a maximum amount of £20,000 per wallet. So they can limit the amount of money that you have. They can put an expiration date on the money that you have, and they can either confirm or deny whether a transaction goes through. So we saw a close example of this during COVID with the Canadian truckers strike. if anybody was found donating money to the truckers who had their bank accounts frozen by the government,
Which they were doing a peaceful protest to be like, don't mandate it, give it a choice. So all the truckers were just driving slowly on the road. Very peaceful protest. And then they froze their bank accounts for doing that.
then they froze the bank accounts of anybody who was caught donating money to them so that they could survive.
Yeah.
So this is a little taste of, if you don't play by the rules, we're going to make sure that you can't eat. That is how serious this is. It's not just, I want to talk to my friends on Facebook. It is, do you want to have a fucking roof over your head?
Yeah.
And you know that, sorry, go on, Andy.
Well, I was just going to say, for that argument, I have heard people be like, well, I trust the government. I don't mind. I don't care about, like, if the government knows everything. And it's just like, you say that now whilst you're agreeing with the government.
Yeah.
But what if it gets to a point where they turn around and they start doing stuff that you don't agree with? What are you going to do then when everything is tied? And like, COVID was a tough time if you chose not to get the vaccine. But like, still had access to my bank account, I still had access to lots of different things. And I thank God that, like, you know, the COVID digital IDs weren't in then, because they would have had so much more power over me if they were like, you cannot access anything. You can't go anywhere without it, you know?
And they're trying to phase out cash as well, because cash is something that they can't control. If I want to pay for something with paper money that I have in my pocket, it's somebody from the government. Yeah, they can't freeze that. So they're trying to phase it out. And over the last 10 years, we've seen, or 20 years actually, we've seen this encroachment of, okay, cash purchases over $50,000 are now illegal. And then cash purchases over $20,000 are now illegal. And I think in some countries it's down to $10,000, or even, I think in Belgium, I could be wrong about this, but one of the European countries, they've got it down to 2,000 euros as a maximum for a cash purchase. So you can't buy a car privately without the government sticking their hand up and saying, give me some of that fucking money.
You know that when you're like driving and quick segue. You know when
Side quest?
you're driving and you're not doing anything illegal and you're relaxing, maybe listening to some music, and then a police car pulls up right next to you and you feel anxious, but you haven't done anything. I'm worried about the feeling of every single person constantly having that, because the government and an authoritative body that can punish you from whatever you may be doing or breaching your privacy. It's not even breaching at that point, because they would be allowed to.
Yeah.
That constant anxiety of being watched anytime you open your phone.
I've got another example. Imagine you rock up to the airport, you booked a flight. You get to the airport, you're really excited for your trip. But then as you're standing in line, you're about to go through, you remember those racist memes that you sent to your best friend. And then you get to the line to go through and they go, hold on, I better not let you into the country because of this is what you've said online.
Yeah.
Like there's another real example of just a really simple thing.
I'd like to jump in here. We keep saying racist memes, and there's going to be a large percentage of the population that say, good, you should be punished for sending racist memes. That is what our current government describes or believes is a punishable offense that you should feel the heat for. But what if the government values change and it's not racist memes, it's something a little bit more innocuous, and it's this constant like, okay, I wasn't allowed to say anything racist, and now I'm not allowed to criticize anybody in power, which actually, if you look at our new hate speech legislation, you're not allowed to criticize anything that the government does, even on economic matters. So it's not just racist memes. The definition is going to get broader and broader and broader and broader. I've got this quote here from Thomas Jefferson, who is one of the founding fathers of the United States. And if you haven't read the US Bill of Rights or the US Declaration of Independence or their Constitution, I highly recommend you do so. Those are some of the most beautiful and impactful documents that I read while I was at university. Such a good value system for building a country and a community around. He said that the natural progress of things is for liberty to yield and for government to gain ground. If we don't fight every step of the way that the government wants to grab power, we will never get that freedom back. And it'll get to a point where if you just want to live a reasonable life with any semblance of privacy, with any semblance of liberty to go and travel, literally from the WEF again, they have said that in the future, through the implementation of carbon credits, so you're not allowed to use a certain amount of petrol per year, you will not be allowed to travel internationally and you will not be allowed to travel domestically, or you'll have a rationed amount of carbon credits that you're allowed to use per year. And they have suggested that instead of going to another country physically and walking around and going into the cathedral and eating their food and seeing how they live their life and having that cultural exchange, you can just download a VR program and walk around digitally. But here's the fucking kicker. After that, they said, but of course, this won't apply to people of means. So if you're part of the 1%, you won't have to worry about any of these rules. It's rules for thee, but not for me. They will make our lives a living hell. The middle class will cease to exist. The lower class will be under the boot of tyranny and for time immemorial, but the rich will continue doing whatever the fuck they want to do.
Yeah, I think the carbon credits is definitely something worth talking about. I feel like in Australia, people aren't too like, oh my gosh, climate change. But in England, every time I go there, I am gobsmacked by how like much people are like talking about like global warming and everything. And in England, they recently, I don't know if this is on all foods, but they have brought in like sandwich packages. Have you guys seen this?
No.
Okay, so on sandwiches in England, they've recently brought this in. It says something like, oh, this contributes like 83 points to your daily carbon allowance. Daily carbon allowance. And so that really scares me because I really pray this doesn't happen, but I can see a world where, again, if the digital ID is linked to every single thing you do, then they'll be like, okay, here's your carbon allowance, exactly what you're talking about. And so they'll be like, oh, well, you can't eat much red meat. You've had 2 steaks this week, no more for you. Oh, you're going to catch a flight with your friends, you're really excited. Oh, no, wait, sorry, you can't catch a flight because you've already used all your carbon allowances. And it's probably like, I do see a world where you can probably just buy some more carbon allowances for the wealthy. So the wealthy will still be able to travel. And so it's
going to be like a video game.
They literally said, and if a young family is struggling to pay their mortgage, they can sell their carbon credits to a wealthy person. Like they said that on stage and people are fucking clapping. Like these people are vampires. They are fucking vampires. And I'm really glad that you brought up the UK. Are you familiar with the ULEZ cameras?
No, what are they?
This is fucking insane. So they have brought out this new system. I think it's just in London so far. They like to trial these draconian authoritarian systems in just one city at a time. Just get them used to it a little bit and then we'll expand. So in London, they've brought out these things called ultra low emission zone cameras. And what that means is once you drive into a certain neighborhood, your car will be recorded by one of these ULEZ cameras. And if it was made prior to 2018 and it's not a hybrid or electric vehicle, you are fined on the spot.
Yeah. Sorry, I do know these. I just didn't know the acronym. But these are legit. And like I'm gobsmacked every time I'm there because my family will be like, oh, we're just going to drive around the city using more fuel, by the way, because they will get fined for not having a car like built earlier. And I'm just like, wait, that doesn't make sense because that's more wastage. And also for people who can't afford to upgrade their car.
That's the key thing.
Actually crazy. Like
it's a tax on the poor.
Yeah. I've spent so much time in England and Australia recently, and I can genuinely say, like, England, I'm so sorry, but you are turning to shit quicker than Australia. Like, it's terrifying.
I do have one little bit of hope core in relation to this.
We will have positive stuff at the end, guys. Don't worry.
This is actually one of my favorite things that have happened in recent times. Usually it's just all doom and gloom and it's all fucked. It's all going to shit. Watch episode 10. But in the case of these ULEZ cameras, it costs roughly £45,000 to set one up. And every single time one of these goes up in a neighborhood, there is this group of like underground people fighting against it called the Blade Runners. And every time one of these cameras go up, they'll go out there at 2:00 in the morning, cut it down with a grinder. And like, so the government is fucking pouring money into this, $45,000 a pop. Every single one of them gets cut down. It's just this endless pit of money. But good on the fucking English lads going out there with the grinder at 2 a.m., probably singing some piss while they're doing it. Like, keep fighting the good fight. Fuck these dogs.
Yeah. And I do think, like, you know, I have been pooping on England, by the way. I'm half British, so I kind of feel like I have a right. But anyway, I have seen that so many people are, doing peaceful marches about the high amounts of immigration to just like try and lower that. And then there's also been really, really huge marches against the digital ID. So I do feel like even though this is scary, there are hundreds of thousands of people who also disagree. We are not alone. And then also I think it's kind of uniting people in a way because people are all like, whether you're whatever political side you stand on, I think we can all agree that the digital ID does have issues. And even if you just look at it as like a safety thing, because if everything's linked, imagine if that got hacked, so it's like even if you're not worried about the control, even if you're not worried about like what the government does, maybe you don't care, you should care about like, well, what if that gets hacked and all your information everything is linked to that and that gets hacked.
Now it's what's called a single point of failure. So there is only one number that they need to know, and then you can get identity fraud, they can take your bank account, they can send some messages in your name, blah, blah, blah. It's one point of failure. If somebody figures that out, like not just you, by the way, the whole country, if everybody is on this system, everyone's cooked.
Yeah.
England is doing everything, well, the government in England is doing everything they can to fight back against this, though, in some capacity. I saw that there was a march where they said, the news agency said it was 100,000 people. There was actually, if you have a look at the footage, 1.5 million people marched for this. And they said it was 100,000. So they're trying to break it down as it's not some big thing. But they're also basically at this point in all across England just putting mayors into power across each kind of county that are basically Muslim or of some, different non-English, basically, to fight back against this, to try and get the power of as much power as they can. So keep fighting hard, England. But
I've mentioned
power
this
to the people.
I've mentioned this on the pod before, but they recently had an argument in Parliament where a Muslim MP was arguing for the benefits of cousin marriage. And if you look at births by race, Pakistani children are 12 times more likely to suffer from a birth defect than English children when born in England, because 70% of their marriages are consanguineous, which means inbred. And that is obviously really bad for the healthcare system. And the fucking NHS bowing to this pressure, as they always do, because nobody has a spine anymore in the West. They were actually saying how cousin marriages are a good thing because they promote inclusivity and closeness of the community. But
the healthcare system in England is... I've spoken to a lot of healthcare practitioners from England, and apparently it is the most difficult referral process system and just so many flaws in it.
Yeah, it's not good.
Apparently it's terrible, and every single one that comes here goes, you get access to that? You what? So we are still extremely blessed here
for now,
but we must continue to get the good word out and try and fight and continue to fight against this. Absolutely.
I've got a question for everyone. I think with the purpose of this digital ID to protect the children, what are your thoughts on this almost being like a slippery slope of the government involving themselves in families, and they're taking the ability away from parents to actually parent their children? Like, this issue isn't necessarily a government issue. They haven't even tried to educate the masses on the harm of social media or with any release of statistics to inform everyone and their family why their children shouldn't be accessing all these things. It's more of a just, I'm going straight in and this is the way, without any nation vote. I believe that in Victoria, there's a recent law that's passed that the government now has a say on if your child gets vaccinated.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they can force vaccinations in Victoria.
Wait, really?
You're not able to go to school if your child isn't vaccinated.
Okay, but like school, like high school and stuff.
Primary,
yeah.
Even like daycare centers.
Oh yeah. No, I already knew that, but I thought you meant like they can literally force you.
Yeah, they can.
Well, it's illegal to not send your child to school in some form or another. You can homeschool, but it's illegal for them to not attend school. But it's mandatory for them to be vaccinated to attend school. So your choices are homeschool or...
It's like in Australia, if you choose to take your child off like chemotherapy, if you want to treat them naturally, and I'm speaking from experience, they will take your child off you and have like armed
Yeah.
guards at the door to stop it. So it's actually crazy how like little option you do have.
I'll
over your children.
read a passage from the bill because Reese has hit the nail on the head here. The laws place the onus on social media platforms, not young people or their parents, to take reasonable steps to prevent Australians under 16 years of age from having accounts. So exactly as Reese said, and Andy, it's no longer the choice of the parents.
Yeah, I feel like they're playing on there's emotional play on the potential busyness of parents in a way. They're almost trying to, yeah, like I hear parents a lot kind of, especially in this day and age, kind of take the reins off, especially those that are obviously in the workforce. If you got both parents in the workforce, for example, you got mum and dad in the workforce. Okay, how can we, offload our children to daycare and all that sort of thing? And I think the government's playing on that and going, okay, both parents are working. Awesome. We're going to be able to make sure they get vaccinated so they have to go to daycare because no one can look after them. No. And it's just one of those things that they're noticing these trends and differences in, back in the day, 50, 100 years ago, whatever it might be, dad went to work, mum stayed at home, looked after the baby. But that doesn't happen anymore. So now the government's going, licking their lips, going, beautiful. Like we can, take advantage of this.
I would contend that they're not taking advantage of a situation that has arisen naturally. I would contend that they have intentionally engineered this system. I forget whether it was JP Morgan or John Rockefeller or one of the other banking oil magnates of the 1920s. But there's a quote from one of them when women's suffrage went through and women started to enter the workforce en masse, that he was like licking his lips saying, now we've just doubled the tax base. It wasn't about liberation. It was about we need to get more fucking money. And beyond that, the primary building block of society used to be the family unit, but they have over the last 100 years broken that down into individuals. Mum goes to her work, dad goes to his work, the kids go to school. Everybody is separate for the majority of the day. Maybe you get 4 hours together of a nighttime, but everybody is going to these different institutions and being programmed by those institutions. And it's no longer one unit acting together. It is 3, 4, 5 separate individuals who are, it's like the Roman fasces, the bundle of sticks, was unbreakable together. But if you take all of them individually, it's much easier to bend an individual to your will than it is to bend a unit to your will.
Yeah, in relating just what I said back to digital ID and how that might influence it, you can just imagine that if, for example, a parent was just like, parents are so busy with their work, one's going to work, they're going to work, they're going to school, the children, the parents, because they just, their lives are also so busy and they're not as hands-on with the children anymore as what we used to be, they'll just be like, okay, cool, go get it, so I don't have to be stressed out in my own life. It's almost like they're continuously playing on that advantage of knowing that parents are, one, under stress. They've got to go to work to pay for the children to go to school. They've got to pay for food. They've got to do all these things. They know that mum can't stay home and educate and, all those sorts of things. So they're going, beautiful, here we go. We can just throw everything at the parents. Take their argument is we're taking pressure off parents having to regulate what their child is seeing. But really, it's allowing them to gain power over families in general.
They always frame it like that. It's always, we're doing this for you.
Yeah, they're just completely, they're framing the whole thing to the benefit of families and individuals. But, if you think deeper and you look deeper, it's really clear to see that that's not something that's happening.
I also think with like vaccinations, they make it really, really difficult to find any information of the other side. Like, especially if you use Google, please don't use Google to try and find out information on both sides. And I'm not sitting here saying you shouldn't vaccinate your children. I'm saying that you should have all the information presented to you so then you can make an educated choice instead of just being given very biased information information that does not show the other side. I feel that is so wrong. And there's a really, really good documentary, which, by the way, you have to watch on a VPN because it's not allowed to be watched in Australia. I don't know if you guys have watched it. It's called Vaxxed.
Europa?
Sorry?
Europa,
The Last Battle.
the last battle.
No.
Don't know that. Anyway, there's this really good documentary called Vaxxed, and it's literally just sharing mothers and kids' experiences, specifically of the MMR vaccine, which I have had a bad reaction to twice. So that's why I was passionate about learning more about it. And it's literally just people's lived experiences. And it's like, why is that banned? And they weren't even saying, the whole summary of it, they weren't even saying it should be banned and you shouldn't vaccinate your children, we're anti-vaxxers. It was literally like, maybe we should wait until they're a little bit older because the stats go down of adverse reactions.
Yeah.
Maybe this. And it's like, but why is that banned? Like, why are we not getting access to all information? That's my question. Not to you guys, but just in general.
Look,
you should ask that.
Typically, if somebody's trying to censor one side of the argument, it's not because their argument is strong enough that it's going to win on its own merit.
Yeah.
That's a tool of control rather than open discussion and let the best idea win. Like, if they're hiding one side of the argument, that's generally because they know if the other side of the argument is freely available, then they're not going to win.
Which is very cowardly. Like, if you have a belief, you need to be able to stand on your 2 feet and argue it. And it's like, love him or hate him, but Charlie Kirk did a very good job at publicly being able to argue his beliefs. And that just showed how knowledgeable he was, because he could like win a lot of debates, and it was very impressive.
Yeah. And he did so without getting hateful or vitriolic.
Yeah, very respectful and kind.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about vaccines,
The Mossad have put a block on your Google.
Yeah, exactly.
it could be a really nice segue into our experiences with vaccines in the past. I think it'll be provide a nice personal touch to the episode in terms of, okay, when COVID was happening, there are 2 individuals on this table who got the COVID jabs. There are 2 individuals on this table who didn't get the COVID jabs. How can we then extrapolate this out into, imagine if 2 individuals got digital ID and 2 individuals didn't get digital ID. We can use past experiences to then predict potential future experiences. Let's do that. That's fun.
Okay. We want to start with the pure bloods or start with the good little goys?
Well, we'll start with the little guys.
Let's go, good.
Okay, so back in the day, I was a good boy. I was like, why wouldn't I take it? Why would the government or there's billions and trillions, I'm sure, of dollars involved in this. They're just protecting, if there's a pandemic out there.
I'm sure nobody has any ulterior motives.
Yeah, why would I possibly think that? I was young and I was like, okay, well, obviously they're going to do their due diligence. If every single person in the entire world should take this vaccine, why would there be any adverse? Like, I've taken vaccines before. I didn't when I was 11 because I was scared and I ran away in class and I said that I did, but I didn't. Anyways.
Sick. They couldn't get you.
Yeah, they didn't get me. I'm still clean in some ways. So I was like, yeah, of course. And then another one, yeah, no problem. I was over the border and my work.
Over which border?
So in Australia and the Queensland, for our international audience.
We have a couple.
We have a couple. The border between Queensland and New South Wales was blocked off. There was a couple times that it would be at night and I would like full balaclava and I would be running through the bushes trying to get through to the other side because I had a partner at the time that lived in Brisbane in Queensland. I was in New South Wales to get to work. One time it took 3 hours. I was very late to my shift and I'm like, I'm not doing that again. Why would I when the government can give me $750 a week, which is crazy at that time, was more than I was getting working. I was like, why would I go to work? It makes no sense.
Fair.
This is a very different version of myself than I am now, but I was
So funny because
massive
I've got a
freeloader.
similar story. This is
I
classic.
had a few arguments with Reese because I was working a lot at the time. I was getting taxed about $1,000 a week. And I'm like, my fucking whole tax nearly. Well, there were two of the guys in our friends group who
And
were
we lived right next to each other,
Yeah.
and almost every day we were getting sourced off this guy's tax.
just getting smashed and
Hell
playing
yeah.
the fucking PlayStation. And I would come in on the weekend and just fucking seethe looking at them having the high life when I'm busting my ass paying taxes.
Yeah. And I could have went to work.
Yeah, everybody could have.
Yeah.
There were ways around it. Anyway,
Anyway, so I was like, okay, there's no reason for me not to want it. And then eventually I started waking up progressively. You know, Marcus would every now and then challenge my thoughts, and it was a long conversion of what's right and what's wrong, and what they're telling us isn't 100% in our best interests. And then all the studies that came out of, like, I remember my sister would be on she was in a video of like I would say the protests on the border where and there was like a man on a horse, and he was like,
yeah,
full.
that was sick.
Yeah. And at that time, right now I'd be like, that's sick. But at that time I was like, look at these like foolish people that are like protesting, they're conspiracy nuts.
Scum.
Yeah, they're like, this vaccine's to protect everyone so we don't die. And there's elderly, like they really made it out to be like, you are a horrible person because people are dying that are elderly, that their immune system isn't meant to have this new, disease, whatever. Yes. Anyways, we'll carry on. And so it was like demonized that if you were against it, you were a terrible person. And so I had that belief as well. And then you find out that it was everything that the conspiracy theorists said it was, like it was made in a lab.
Wait, can I just pause? When we say the word conspiracy theorists and like the anti-vaxxers, I think that's a really convenient way to not listen to what other people have to say. If you just immediately peg somebody, oh, well, they're an anti-vaxxer, they're a conspiracy theory. Yeah. It's this very convenient way to paint somebody as crazy. So then you don't listen to them. So it's just like, maybe it's not the conspiracy theorists, but it's more the people who had questions.
Exactly.
Questioners.
I'm pretty sure that term was actually invented. It was coined in the 1960s as people were like sus of the JFK assassination. So the government and the media conglomerates came up with this term to say anybody who's suspicious is a conspiracy theorist. You can't trust them. They're an idiot. They're a traitor, blah, blah, blah. And they have done such a good job of keeping that going over the last 60 years.
Yeah, because that was my mindset at that time, that these people that are against it are conspiracy theorists. And so it relates to this here, that where we could be labeled as conspiracy theorists for saying we're not going to get the digital ID because we're concerned. But like Andy said, and it was a very good point, we are concerned and we have a right to be. So I definitely have health issues. I think I've got issues with my heart, and I think it's because of that. I'm very scared for my future and having children. Like, I'm very hesitant on either do I even want to have children now that I'm vaccinated, because I'm sure that the chance of autism is probably increased. It's shown, there's evidence that male and female fertility have decreased because of the vaccine. I know there was a study that was released in America that got wiped out, that more people have died from the vaccine in America than the actual coronavirus, which is not good. No. And then it makes you reflect like all the stuff that we were injected in as a baby that are mandatory, that has such a low death count, but we have to have that vaccine, and so many of them at the same time.
They vaccinate babies against hepatitis B, which is like you only get that from sharing needles or unprotected sex.
Yeah.
So
I'm definitely not fucking when I'm a baby.
No, I don't know if they're trying to account for Metitza Bepe or what.
It's a Jewish practice that's very frequent in Jewish communities, that where the rabbi will circumcise a baby and then suck the blood from the baby's penis. And many babies in New York contracted herpes and sadly passed away.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'll quickly go into mine. I'll keep it short and sweet. I was a university student. I didn't want to get this as well. I was actually someone that didn't want to get it. and almost just crumbled to the pressure of getting it, because I was like, basically they said to me, if you don't get this, you can't go on placement at university, which means therefore you can't finish your degree. And then for me, that was my whole world then. And I was like, my whole world's going to come crashing down if I don't get this. Fuck, I've got to go get it. So basically to allow me to finish my degree, they said, go get the vaccine. So I went and got the vaccine. But then as soon as I got the vaccine and placement was kind of done, they kept saying, go get the next one, go get the next one, but they didn't actually force it on me in the end. So I was kicking myself that I went and got the first one, because I think I could have fought harder to not get it and still go on placement. So yeah, big regret for me. I don't have any health concerns that I know of. Maybe I could, what's that?
How are your swimmers?
I don't know, bro. I actually have no idea around that.
But we could be shooting them.
Well, exactly. Well, I don't know. I don't have a partner currently, so I have no idea. So that was that. My experience of the whole, I was similar to Reese. I used to just jump the border at like 10 o'clock at night. I used to literally, what I'd do is I'd leave my car on the Queensland side. I lived in New South Wales. I used to, so I could go party with the boys on the weekend up in Queensland where it was sweet. I would run across the border in Cooley, get in my car and then drive. Or they'd come and pick me up from Cooley. So sick. I was also another one though that didn't, similar to you, where I got, because I was a university. I was a university student, so I was also on the what was the payment that we got?
Oh, the $750.
Yeah, I was
paying for you too.
I was on the $750.
It was so sick.
Well, I got $750. I didn't work, did uni, and just trained for a marathon and played FIFA with the boys in Mermaid. Yeah.
Sounds like a good time.
It was
disgusting.
Andy, let's go your experience.
Well, I would say COVID was the loneliest and most difficult time of my life, because I chose not to get the vaccine. Obviously, that was my choice, so I'm not going to play victim, but it was a very, very tough time. I was the only one in my friend group at the time who didn't get it, but I was very lucky in the sense that all of my friends, everybody who I met and I explained why I wasn't getting it, were very loving and very respectful. I didn't lose a single friend from not getting it, because I have heard of other people's stories of losing friendships over it. But all my friends are very understanding, very accepting, which is really good. But it was also really tough because all of my freedoms got taken away from me. Oh, and the only people who I knew who weren't getting it was my family, but they're all overseas. So I literally felt so alone, so isolated, so crazy. And at the time on social media, if anybody posted anything about them, the content got taken down. So I couldn't even find pages where I, felt connected to and not alone. With the digital IDs, I actually feel like there's so much information out there where I'm like, oh my God, I'm not alone. But COVID, I truly felt alone. I low-key felt crazy. And, they were painting such a narrative of if you don't get it, you're selfish, you're hating the community, you're not caring about grandmas. And I had a very legitimate reason. I've had two terrible reactions to the MMR vaccine when I was younger. So now I'm just well, no. But I also hid behind that. So anytime I told people, oh, I've had an adverse reaction, they'll be like, oh yeah, no, fair enough. It makes sense for you not to get it. But anybody else who chooses not to get it is evil. And I was a bit weak back then, I'm not going to lie. I didn't stand up truly because I think I could have said this is why, but also I think it should be a choice. And whether you want to get it or not, go for gold. Whatever you want, you should do, but it shouldn't be that your freedoms should be taken away from you. But also, I was young. I didn't know any better. I just did what I had to do to survive. And I felt very isolated. But I lost my job because they were you need your vaccine to have that. And I was like, okay, cool. And so, yeah, it was a very tough time. And then for a long time, I was actually in Brisbane. So in Brisbane versus the Gold Coast was crazy different. In Brisbane, they were genuinely I went to a coffee shop and they were like, hi, can you please check in with your COVID passport? And I was like, hi, no. And walked away. And everybody was wearing masks apart from me because there was a legal loophole.
Nice.
You could say, you could just not wear it. and say you have an exemption, but you didn't actually have to show the exemption. So I would just never wear it because I'm like, I want to be able to smile at people. I don't want this silly mask on
The
me.
mask thing was crazy.
I saw some
crazy.
videos, like they say you don't have to present your exemption, but I've seen videos of like 5 cops surrounding a dude in a shopping center and saying, you're not leaving until you show us an exemption. And if you can't show us one, you're getting fined.
Yeah.
So-
Okay. Well, luckily I didn't have that. Maybe it's also because like I'm a girl.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do feel like I can get away with maybe a little bit more.
That female privilege.
Honestly, yes. And then it was, tough time. And then every time I visited the Gold Coast, I noticed nobody was wearing masks. Nobody was asking me to check in. And then I was like, screw it. I'm going to move to the Gold Coast, which I found out, by the way, Gold Coast is the least vaccinated city in Australia.
Yeah.
I'm not
Absolute
surprised.
slay. I got a job and I was working at like a bar. Nobody asked me for that. And like we never asked any people walking in to show it. Sometimes people would show it to me and I'm like, ew, I don't want to see that. And then somebody sent me a link to this app that was created and it was basically a replica. Oh, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this right now, but I'll just talk about it anyway.
You didn't use it.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, there was an app that was created that basically was a fake login that that replicated every single different cities. And hypothetically, if I had have used that, it probably would have worked. And it also hypothetically gave me a lot of empowerment because I realized I'm not alone. There's people who have hypothetically coded that and come together, which wouldn't have been easy. And so I realized I wasn't alone. And then, that was my COVID experience. And I think at the beginning, I was very angry, resentful, and bitter towards the people who did get it.
Yeah.
And I got mad because I was like, why are people not looking into this? Why are people not asking questions? But then I realized, hang on. If I had never had an adverse reaction, I probably would be exactly like everybody else and just listening because I wouldn't have had a reason to question it. And so then I started to come from a place of like understanding and love. And I just thought this divide between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated is not helpful. What's really powerful is even when your freedoms are being squeezed, even when you're being questioned, you feel alone and isolated. I think what's powerful is being still loving, still kind and accepting. I had to do 2 weeks of hotel quarantine when I came back from England. Nobody else on my flight was doing it because every single person had been vaccinated. And I was being driven to the hotel and I was like having a nice chat to the bus driver. It was just him and I. And he said, you are the most positive person I have seen coming into hotel quarantine. Like everybody else is usually angry and bitter and ranting at me. And I said, well, you're not the person who's made the rules. You're just doing your job. Like you're not at fault here. And even when I like checked in for hotel quarantine, there were police there and nurses there, like
Crazy.
taking things. But I was still very kind to them and very loving because again, they are not the rule setters. They are just like the messenger. And so I think that was a very big lesson to me is like, I actually think the biggest rebellion is still staying joyful despite that, still loving on people because I think when I was loving and kind to those police people and the nurses, police officers, they were so kind back to me and they were just so understanding. And so I think that's more powerful than me going in there and being like, I shouldn't be here. Fuck you guys. Because again, that's not going to change anything. They don't make the rules. It's the people above who do.
I would contend that if you are working in an organization like the police or like the medical system, you have a responsibility to resist tyranny when it rears its head. And I feel like if enough police officers got together and said, hey, we shouldn't be door knocking and making sure that people are following the rules. We shouldn't be flying helicopters around Sydney to make sure that people aren't leaving their 2-kilometer quarantine zone. Then maybe we wouldn't have had this. It was fucking insane. Armed guards at state borders. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. No, it was insane. But I also think to counter that, they had probably been fed a lie of like, guys, this virus is really deadly. So we need to keep people at home to protect them. So I think like it's easy to sit here and be like, well, why are you doing this? And like, fuck you. And you should be rebelling. But also we can only do what we have with the information that we had. And they would have been fed a very big narrative.
100%.
And so I think like it's so easy to sit here and be like, anyone who got the jab is dumb. But I don't think you guys are dumb. And I can understand why you came through what you came through. You know?
Similarly,
Yeah.
sorry, mate. You don't have a job anymore because you're resisting.
Yeah.
people who've got to feed their family. Like,
Yeah.
There are so many people who are in Dom's camp where it's like, I really don't want to get this, but I feel like I have no other choice.
Yeah.
And my heart really goes out to people like that.
100%.
yeah, and like I wish I had a friendship group around me at that time and people that were able to kind of like back up what I was feeling, because I
Yeah.
didn't really have that so much back then.
Yeah. And
Which
you
was
couldn't
so
talk about it
hard.
either, because if you spoke about it, people would be like, hang on, are you questioning it? Like, what?
I know.
From that experience, I feel like I've learned that there is always an option. Like, I managed
Yep.
to leave Australia at the strictest lockdown when even the vaccinated weren't really allowed to travel. I managed to leave Australia legally, and like shout out to my bro who helped me find this legal loophole. But I managed to leave Australia during like the strictest lockdown when I wasn't vaccinated. And so that in itself shows me there are always options. You just have to be willing to do the inconvenient ways around. And it's just like, yeah, I lost one job. I found another job that did kind of allow it. And again, that whole COVID situation would have been made 10 times worse if all this digital ID thing had been in place and everything was linked. So like I like still wouldn't have got it, but it would have been very, very difficult. It's like not having access to money.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's tough.
Yeah. Marcus, do you want to go in your experience?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. Also, fellow pureblood here. I was living in Sydney when it first kicked off, and I lost my job when they locked everything down, and then I couldn't go to the gym, and then I couldn't go to MMA, and it's like my whole life imploded.
Wait, pause. Can we ask why you chose not to get it?
Yeah, okay. I am a bit of a fucking nerd. I've read a lot of different historical accounts from every single period in history that you can think of. And I have a pretty good smell test for like, is the government lying to us? Does it look like this thing that happened 200 years ago? Does it look like this thing that happened 60 years ago? Yes, no. So when it first came out and I was watching the news reports on the TV, it's like, oh, I don't believe you. This doesn't make sense to me based on the things that I've researched. And when it first came out, I was like, okay, if this is true, I'm fucking taking this seriously. So I was living in Sydney, super densely populated city, and this came from China. I lived in a very ethnically diverse neighborhood in Western Sydney. A lot of Chinese people there. And I was like, okay, I still need to eat. I need to go outside. What does that look like? I had this homemade hazmat suit that I made. It was like, I had a hoodie on, fucking mask. I had dish gloves going over the sleeves of my hoodie, like socks tucked in. And to my shame, if I walked past a Chinese person, I would hold my breath for like 30 seconds straight up.
I didn't know this.
But the thing
I'm so
is,
glad we're going here.
no, look, two fucking blocks away from, two suburbs away from me, there was a Chinese woman caught on CCTV, like coughing and spitting on the fruit and vegetables.
Oh, I saw that. Was that near yours?
Yes, bro. And dude, somebody
She was doing that on purpose.
She was doing it on purpose. And in my fucking Woolworths, like a 50-meter walk from my house, somebody got stabbed over toilet paper. Like,
No.
it was fucking pandemonium. It was crazy. And I was like, okay, I'm vigilant. If somebody fucking comes at me because they want my groceries, I'm ready. And if this is a deadly disease, I'm ready. Like, fucking gloves over. As soon as I get in the door, gloves go over here. Things go straight in the wash. Like, super hot cycle. I acted as though it was going to kill me. But gradually, as more and more information came in, I was like, okay, they're lying to us. This is bullshit. I'm not going to be compliant with anything else that they're doing from this point out. And I had to leave Sydney. I had to leave my partner there because I refused to get on Centrelink. And my dad drilled into me when I was growing up. He's like, you're a man, you fucking provide for yourself. If you ever take money from Centrelink, I will beat you black and blue. Like, you fucking stand up on your own 2 feet. You're a man. So no Centrelink was an option. Yeah, thanks, guys. No Centrelink was an
I was
option.
also on Centrelink, guys. Don't worry.
Fucking hell.
I was a uni student as well. Well, I'm far from my job market. What am I meant to do?
Well, I moved back to my home in the Northern Rivers, which was I believe that Gold Coast is the least vaccinated city. The Northern Rivers was the least vaccinated, like, council area.
Yeah.
Everybody
Correct.
there is just a drug addicted hippie. There are some exceptions to that, some very successful people there, but everyone's a little bit loose.
Yep. Great place.
Shout out the
in
Northern
Australia.
Rivers.
Yeah.
Fucking great place to grow up. 248 represent.
What a great
Hell
place
yeah.
to be during COVID, though, because then
Yeah.
you've got a community and you're not alone.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was like,
It was sick.
I would say still the majority of people were vaccinated, but maybe like 55%.
That's a huge amount, though, so I love that.
I was able to work as a landscaper working for this other dude. Like, I'd just be working on people's yards, not really having much contact, but I was working and providing for myself, which was good mentally.
Yeah, that would have been good instead of stewing.
Yeah, instead of stewing. And like, just like the boys here, when it comes Friday, Saturday night, go to the border at Cooley, jump over and go get absolutely smashed somewhere on the Goldie. Like, it was pretty good times, to be honest.
Wait, a lot of people I've spoken to tell their horror stories from COVID, but honestly, it was some of the best years.
Yeah,
ever.
we had some fucking fun.
Only because it felt like so rebellious to jump and like go party.
Yeah.
Well, I was 20 or 21 at the time, so like,
Of course, young people are going to find a way to have fun.
yeah.
And then sort of, I was on the opposite end of the spectrum to Andy, where everybody knew what I thought about the vaccine. I actually got banned from posting on Instagram because I was just sharing stuff to my story. That, like, doctors talking about how this is useless.
Yeah.
The Great Barrington Declaration, which was a document signed by 40,000 doctors around the world saying that masks are ineffective. We should be looking for herd immunity. The vaccine is ineffective. It's not going to get us out of this. I was sharing all of that shit until they wouldn't let me.
Well done. Thank you for your work.
That's
I
all
appreciate
right.
it. You did what I wish I had the courage to do back then.
I lost about 100 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, you know what? I posted one thing about it once and I literally didn't even say anything about like the vaccine's effectiveness. I posted a photo of the marches that were happening in Canberra because the news weren't reporting on it. And I said, hey guys, just showing you a photo of how many people were marching because I know the news isn't reporting on this. And then I said, this isn't about whether a vaccine is effective or not. This is simply about choice. And then I lost like 8 followers just from that. And then I had somebody replying to me like, you were just in England. And I'm like, thank you. Yes, I was. Like, I'm not even saying whether it's effective or not. I'm just saying give us choice. Choice is so important. Anyway, sorry. Side quest.
That's okay.
No,
We've
that's
been
great.
on. It's all good. We've been
That's
on.
a great segue into, I guess, how that correlates to our own experiences and then how we've effectively decided not to get the digital ID.
Yeah, I think one of the main links between COVID and this is obviously the mandatory but not mandatory thing, or not mandatory but it is mandatory sort of aspect of it. But we were talking earlier about the sort of rational statistical arguments for, is this actually going to be a net positive on society? Is this going to do what they're claiming that it's going to do? Obviously, the vaccines didn't, the masks didn't. Is this going to be effective? Well, let's have a look at some historical trends. This is about increasing surveillance capabilities of government in order to prevent harm being done. So let's have a look at London. Since 2012, the amount of CCTV cameras since 2012, the amount of CCTV cameras in London has roughly 10x'd, but violent crime has grown by roughly 80% in the same period, and the number of sexual crimes in the city has more than doubled since 2010. So we've got 10 times more surveillance, and we've got double the crime. Surveillance does not work as a deterrent. It is simply ineffective.
Because they say history repeats itself.
Yeah, well, in terms of surveillance, that's all that I have. Like, what has happened, we've increased the amount of surveillance via cameras. This is the next step of that. It's not where can I see you physically, it's everything that you're doing online. So if your ID is linked to your social media accounts, there is obviously a pathway for them to be able to monitor everything that you say and do. And in certain countries in Europe, they are actually looking at somebody's social media activity and saying, have you visited this webpage? Have you commented on this post from this individual? And based on that, you will get a visit from the police at your door. Like, if you've commented on something that they have deemed as unacceptable to
Australia
view.
March, for example.
Yeah, they are trying to limit certain behaviors that they don't agree with by using these more comprehensive methods of surveillance. And like we said earlier, it's not going to be lessened over time. This is the scope of this is going to get broader and broader and broader and broader. And when you implement something like a social credit system like they have in China, there's a famous example from, this is like 5 years ago now. So they are probably the furthest along this road of any country so far. There was a Chinese MMA fighter who went around the country to try and prove that Kung Fu, their national martial art, is now ineffective and that they should be adopting Western principles if they want to be better fighters. He would go around the country and just beat the shit out of Kung Fu masters. And it was like, he's a nobody. He's not in the UFC. He just does MMA at like a very mid level. And he was destroying these Kung Fu masters who are like the top dogs in that realm. Because he was making Chinese culture look bad and Western culture in terms of martial arts look superior, his bank accounts were frozen. He was not allowed to travel around the country. Like, he wasn't allowed to purchase a train ticket. He wasn't allowed to purchase a flight. He was not allowed to rent anymore. Like, gradually they just limited his freedom until he's fucking stuck, like, living off of donations that other people are giving him because they're saying, okay, this is obviously unfair. You should be allowed to feed yourself. You should be allowed to have a roof over your head. That is the end point of this digital ID, of this smart cities network, of this ever pervasive Big Brother monitoring and gauging and scoring you based on everything that you do. Like, it doesn't stop at, I just want to
use social media.
Yeah, I want to use social media. I want to log into my MyGov account. It goes so much further than that. And what they're saying that it does, which is keep people safe, it's not doing that.
It's going to be like a real life video game.
Mm.
I have a theory in regards to this. It might be really like whack, but young people love video games. Video games have been on the rise over the last, 20 years, and it's just getting more and more visual and more, difficult, and, more thought goes into it. People are spending more time in video games. This is a crazy theory, but is it possible that they're going to do this to try and, like, because people love video games, obviously, on a screen, if they do it in real life, will that allow more young people to be like, well, this is really cool. I can be in a real life video game now. Like, that could almost be like a real whack theory to be like, oh, they have thought about this so much that the generation loves video games, especially young men. Let's get as many young men powerless as possible because they love video games, and, once they have digital ID, then they can play this real life video game almost.
You've got a score that you can make go up.
You've got a score within society. Like, you can start like transferring your carbon credits to different people.
Grinding.
Yeah,
I'll be in the lab grinding.
Yeah, like, imagine like just being in the lab, just being like,
bro.
how can I get from like, you can imagine like you start at the bottom. How can I rise to the top of society through this video game by like trading things and
or just being a good citizen?
Yeah, being a good citizen.
Well, I would, if I had, like, there was absolutely no choice, you would see a different me.
Yeah, you would be grinding, bro.
And that means we are exactly what the government needs us to be, and that is complete suppression of personality and individualism.
But in the argument,
interchangeable economic unit.
Yeah, because I'm just like, if I'm on social media, I'm going to be posting some ridiculously happy Mega type stuff. Just like,
look how dope Albo looks in his turban.
yes, like, I'll be going crazy with it.
I also believe that because it's young men that like video games, it's another way for them to create powerlessness in young men and prevent fight back. And it's also a way where, like, it's going to just continue to just cycle that whole, concept that now is coming out, where obviously, I won't speak about into this a little bit more, but we've spoken about on the podcast, obviously, the downfall of young men and what we've seen, and as a result of video games, porn, all those sorts of things. I think it's just another way for them to do this.
Yeah. I have an interesting theory.
Oh God, here we go.
Do we want to talk about theories a little bit?
All right.
Yeah, this is
Want to
fun.
go down some rabbit holes?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so when we had COVID, right, we had a why Okay. Everything in life is driven with more emotion if there's a why, a purpose. With COVID, like you said, like dying grandmothers, there was so much purpose to get that vaccine. We don't have that for this. But if they want it, if they are so needingly want us to have the digital ID, I believe that in the next couple of years, there's going to be some sort of catalytic event that makes us need the digital ID.
Yeah.
So some of them could be immigration. There's so high immigration with crimes we've seen in Melbourne of the knife fighting and stuff like that. If they need to start getting every single individual and then target those individuals so they can be like, these are the people that are committing these crimes, then that would be something. There could be some sort of...
You know what I think would be the most likely candidate for this? Do you remember in 2020 when Trump lost the election and there was that weird thing with the overnight spike in mail-in votes and everybody said that the election was fraudulent? It's since been proven to be correct. At the time, I, as a very pro-crypto dude, was like, the only way that you can guarantee that people are actually counting the votes correctly is if elections are held on a blockchain and everybody has a unique hash identifier and blockchains are immutable, they're publicly available. That's the perfect segue for them to go in, because it's actually like, if you want a correct election result, are you really going to have people counting it by hand? Because there were people in Democrat cities who were literally just taking piles of mail-in votes that said Republican and throwing them in the bin, like recorded videos. People are fucking guilty of throwing votes in the bin. The paper system is flawed, but at what cost do we want to guarantee that our elections are truly free and fair? Even as a hardcore crypto dude, like, this technology is good. If used incorrectly, which I feel like this would be an incorrect use of it because of the slippery slope effect, I don't think that it is worth it for that. But if there is another really bad election result where we're like, okay, we have to clean this up, this is clearly not a true democratic process, we're not counting this accurately, I can see that being a very strong argument for implementing unique hash identifiers.
Yeah. Or some sort of...
Wow, yeah.
Well, like, if you look in England has a lot of immigration issues. So then they're like, Keir Starmer's like, don't worry, guys, I have the solution. We're going to bring in digital IDs and you're going to need them to work. And I'm like, in literally what world does that stop illegal immigration? Because the people who are hiring immigrants illegally and paying them pennies will just continue to do so.
Yeah.
So it's like absolutely wild. And then they're trying to use, like, the people of England are upset by the high amounts of immigration. So then they're like, well, don't worry, guys, we've listened to you and we're going to have a solution.
Yeah.
So please use this. But luckily the people are like, no, that's a terrible solution.
Yeah.
We've obviously spent a lot of time discussing negatives. We've tried to play what would be this, well, even if I got this, like, what is the problem with it? And we've kind of come up with some obvious answers to that too. What I want to talk solutions, and let's get positive, Andy.
I literally have so
this
many
is,
solutions. I obviously don't have all the answers, and I don't think anybody has clear-cut answers because we don't know exactly where it will go or what will happen. But I do have things that you can do that will hopefully make you feel a bit more empowered. And I have a long list, but, like, we can just discuss each one, and obviously I want to hear yours as well. But the first one would be that I feel like we need to start compartmentalizing all our logins. So what I mean by that is, like, say if you want to log into Canva or sign up for Canva, you might be like, sign in with Google because it's easier, or sign in with Facebook, whatever it is. Like, those are really, really easy options. But what I think is really important is if we start just like, and this is so small, is just literally creating individual logins for every single one. Because it's like, well, what if to use Google, they're like, you need your digital ID. Well, it's okay because you haven't linked everything to it. And if you have linked everything to it, that's okay as well. Just start now. compartmentalizing, because all of these things, like say if, you know, your Instagram thing got taken down, okay, but you still had access to Facebook and YouTube and all these things. It's when everything's tied together. That's the issue. So really compartmentalize all your logins, have individualized passwords. I love to use Proton Pass to store all my passwords very easily. They're all randomized, encrypted, stuff like that.
Proton Mail was recently purchased by the Israeli government.
No. Oh, that's
So is
That's
so
all right.
Chat
sad.
Can't you just
And TikTok.
use Notes on your phone, like the Notes app?
no, because they
I-
can access that.
This is a crypto security thing. Write everything down on paper.
Cool.
Or do that, but also like I like to have an online one, because you know when you're like logging in, like I'm not gonna have my notebook and then just I could do
yeah.
that. I could do
It's
that.
hard
If
to
it's random
remember
gibberish, then yeah.
It is random gibberish. And then also because I'm an executive assistant, I have logins for like all of my clients. So I need a safe place to store all that. Anyway, moving on. I recommend using platforms that are more private. So again, Google isn't too private, but if you use something like Brave, that tends to
Yes.
be a bit more encrypted and a bit more private. And I know you might be like, well, I don't care if the government knows I'm looking at, you know, flights and stuff. And it's not about you doing stuff wrong. Like I'm not doing anything wrong, but it is nice to know that you're taking control of your digital footprint. You're choosing to be private. And it's like, do you really want a random person sitting at your dinner party not saying anything but listening to the whole thing?
Yeah.
Probably not. So it's just like, I know you think that it's like it's harmless because you can't see these people, but like just take control of that and care about it, because yeah, you should care about it. It's like saying I don't care about freedom of speech because I have nothing to say. It's like we should care about that. Anyway, so it's literally
if
so
I
easy.
can expand on that,
Yeah.
Brave is a web browser that automatically blocks ads and blocks cross-website tracking. It's fantastic. It's the gold standard for privacy, unless you're using like Tor or something like that. I have been banging the drum on everybody downloading Brave browser because it is just the duck's nuts. It is so good.
Yeah, but you can still use Google on it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you can still use that, because I know Google is so much better than like Bing, who Bings stuff.
How insane is this, real quick?
I use DuckDuckGo or Brave Search.
Yeah,
because-
DuckDuckGo is good
Yeah.
as well, yeah.
I cannot access university lectures unless I've got cookies and cross website browsing on.
Really?
This is where you have two separate browsers, one for personal use, one for business use.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I still use Google for some of my like clients' work, because some things, it is. But it's just like I have Brave as my default browser on like my phone and my laptop. So it's like as much as possible, just use that. And it literally is so simple and easy to use. Like, why not? It's free. Why not?
Right. So you would like on one browser, you would look up like social medias or like anything personal, and the other you would be like how to donate to APAC.
Or like, you know, I don't know what APAC is, but anyway.
It's the American Israel something. It's like a lobbying group that pays politicians to enact pro-Israel legislation.
Okay, I don't really know anything about this stuff. But anyway, but yeah, so for example, you might just use Google for when you need to access your
Yep.
uni stuff.
Got
but
ya.
apart from that, I recommend switching to cash. This is where my props come in, guys.
Yo,
Let's go.
Are we ready?
Sick.
$100 each for us. What? Andy?
So,
Yo,
yeah,
just for the
Sean.
audio listeners, Andy just handed us $100 bill each.
So, guys, I know you might not know what this thing is, but this is a wallet, okay? Whoa. I know, it's crazy. And it's not digital. Look at that. Oh my God, she has physical cards.
Wow,
She has
wow.
cash.
Yo,
What?
let's go.
Coins? It's crazy. I know.
Wait, keep them away from me.
What a convenient and easy place to store all of those things.
I know. All in one. Cute, by the way. Butter yellow for those who aren't listening. Aren't watching.
Wow.
It's an actual wallet with money and physical cards. And as much as possible, try switching to that, because when you're buying your groceries with cash, nobody knows that you were there. Nobody knows what
Yeah.
you bought. And again, I know you're like, why the heck do I care if people know that I bought milk and some steak? But if we do think that that carbon credit tracking thing is going to come
Yeah.
in, which by the way, I think one of the big 4 banks in Australia, when you're using your card, it will tell you your carbon footprint. So it's already tracking.
Yeah.
It's already getting
St. George
it.
has that already.
Yeah, so I think just like as much as you can. Some places don't accept cash, but like a lot do actually. I've just started using this in the last like few weeks. And a lot of places do accept cash. They're kind of like, oh yeah, we accept cash. Like, who pays for cash these days? But yeah, it's very good. I recommend that. It's taking freedom back. And if every person switched to cash, literally, if every person switched cash, or even just like a higher percentage, so many more places would accept it. And then it would slow down, the risk of CBDCs coming in and everything like that. So that's
like it.
I've got a historical example of times that you wouldn't want a record of you purchasing something. When the US went off of the gold standard in it was FDR who did this, Franklin Roosevelt, they confiscated everybody's gold. They took private citizens and reimbursed them for their gold with fiat currency, which obviously is worthless in the long run. We've lost 99% of our purchasing power since then. So if you do want to purchase gold or silver as a store of value and you don't necessarily want people to have a record of that, then buying it with cash is the preferable option.
Yeah. Or like if you're buying a car and you want to buy it secondhand with cash, like you can. So cash is king, and I know it seems inconvenient, but try as much as possible. I know the girls think that if you pay cash, it's free. I can confirm it all feels very free.
I've got a different experience. I was at a bar a few years ago and I was paying for a drink with cash, and I was counting out my coins on the counter because I'd used a note and then I had coins.
Yeah.
And a woman who was in line behind me came up to me and said, "Oh no, are you poor?" So there are pros and cons to this, ladies and gentlemen.
Or a down.
Yeah.
So make sure you just have $100 notes.
Yeah, and never use your coins for anything.
Greens whenever you're out at a bar.
Yes, 100%.
Oh, that's so tough.
Yeah.
You
Do
can't explain it either.
No.
You're not going to be like, oh, I would just rather use cash when
Yeah.
you're counting coins.
It's not a good look.
No, not at all.
Wait, should I continue? I
Yeah,
feel
keep
I'm
going.
really-
That's
100%.
really
Okay.
funny.
Okay, next one is owning cryptocurrency. Personally, I'm a Bitcoin only type of gal.
Hell yeah.
But this is something that is really, really important to me ever since like COVID happened, because again, we spoke about how when the Canadian truck drivers were very peacefully protesting, their bank accounts got frozen. Whereas like crypto, if you hold it in like, is it called a cold wallet or a hard
Cold
wallet?
storage.
Cold storage, where like it's not on an exchange, on an online platform. If it's cold storage, no one can take that from you. No one can freeze that. So to me, it's been a very good investment. Like I'm like, oh, I'm very happy with my returns. But it actually genuinely started from a place of like, I actually need to have emergency money somewhere other than my bank accounts, because at the end of the day, they can just freeze it whenever they want. Like they could listen to this and be like, we're freezing that.
Yeah.
So for me, buying Bitcoin is something that's very, very important to me, and it's something that I will continue to purchase. Like Bitcoin is such a cool concept if you don't know much about it and it doesn't make sense to you. Basically, the overarching principle is that there will only ever be a certain amount of Bitcoins. I believe it is it 21 million?
Correct.
There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins, which means that it really does hold its value instead of like money, where they just continue to print more. And that's why like 3 years ago, I used to be able to spend $30 a week on food. I was like, I was
crazy.
pretty well malnourished. It was when I was saving hardcore during uni. But like now I'm like, what? I don't know how I used to live on 30. So that's just like an example of how much inflation. Whereas like Bitcoin, there will only ever be a certain amount. So it really does hopefully hold its value. Setting up overseas bank accounts instead of just relying, if you're Australian, instead of just relying on the banking system, because again, they could just freeze it, they could just take it away. So I think having different options, I believe in Singapore you can set one up maybe mildly simply. I'm very lucky where I have different residencies, not just Australia.
Not only for safety and like maybe this bank account gets locked for whatever reason, it's also beneficial for tax purposes, all legal. There are certain jurisdictions that don't rape you for 65% effective tax rate like we have in Australia if you're in the top tax bracket. There are just countries that manage it better, and Singapore is one of them. Even if you're a foreign resident, the maximum tax that you can pay is 15%.
Yeah,
Like-
so good.
I've got a Japanese bank account, but that's only because I'm about to move over there for a little while.
Are you?
I
I
am,
love that.
yes. I haven't looked into.
Matches?
I'm literally when I leave here today, it's going to be one of the things I do is just have a look into that whole system and see how it works over there.
Yeah.
But that'll be really cool. It'll be a really cool case study. I'll let you all know how it goes.
Let us know. Maybe we're going to have Japanese bank accounts. But I think all of this is basically saying don't put all your eggs in one basket because then you are so much more likely to be controllable. And if you didn't want to get the vaccine or you didn't get the vaccine during COVID, you particularly really, really want to make sure that you're not giving all your power to one thing. I still have more solutions. Shall I keep going?
Run through 'em.
Okay.
Keep going. Epic.
Next is get as many different residencies as possible. So if you do have different, like my grandpa was Irish, so now I've got my Irish citizenship, which gives me access to Ireland and obviously all of Europe. Got my British, which is pretty useless now, and then Australia. But then also there are options if you don't have those inherent relations or whatever, and you can't get that, you're pure Australian, you can go to places like Paraguay and pay not that much to get a residency. And I'm not saying you need to live there because you're like, maybe I don't want to live in Paraguay. But again, it's just having options and it's putting yourself in as many grids as possible so that if things do turn to shit, if they are getting dark and you're like, I'm not liking where this is turning, I'm going to go to this country for a bit whilst I just see what happens, then you've got that choice. Again, it's just about having choice. And I know it might seem like crazy, but if you think a cyclone's going to happen, would it not be better to just prepare for the cyclone? Yeah. And then if it's happening, you can stay relatively calm. Like when they thought Cyclone Alfred was going to happen, we prepared for it. I personally prepared for it, not that much, but a little bit. Yeah. And so when it was happening, I was kind of like, oh, this is like kind of exciting. Like what's going to happen? Because I'm prepared. I've got water. I've got food. If the power goes out, whereas had I not prepared, I'd be like, shit, I hope it's all okay. And it's like, I really pray that everything we spoke about, I pray that that doesn't happen. I pray that we seem low-key crazy. But it's so much better to create those options now than get to a place where you're like, shit, they were right and I have zero prepared and now I have to get it.
Late.
Now it's too late. I will continue. I'm getting really passionate. Okay, so switch to, and I'm working on this. This is very hypocritical as I'm literally on my smartphone. But I do think if you switch to a phone that cannot hold a digital ID, then that is quite powerful. So I'm actually in the process of getting a flip phone,
Nice.
which I'm really excited about. And
the old Nokia brick, come on.
Yeah. This goes to my prep. Okay, let me show you.
Let's go.
Okay, so you might be like, oh my God, but I use my phone for a calendar. Well, don't worry because I just purchased a little pocket calendar so I can keep track of everything. You might be like, well, Andy, I wrote down my random notes when I'm out and about. Well, don't worry because I have a mini notebook right here.
What?
You might be like, well, Andy, I like to have my gym workout at the gym and know what I'm doing. Well, don't worry because right here you can write down all your workouts and look like a gym bro and write down how much you benched. At the gym I currently go to, Club Lime, I love to go to the gym without my phone and have my workouts in my book because I don't want to be, like, I like to be off my phone as much as possible. But they literally will not give you a physical beepy thing. They can only give it to you online. But then I just go and either somebody's there and they'll let me in or I'll just knock on the door and somebody will let me in. So there's always ways. So don't think, well, I have to have my phone because there's a login. You know, it's just like, there's ways around it. And I think if you have a phone that can't hold the digital ID, they're going to have to give you an option. Like even in the UK, they said, you will not be able to work if you don't have the digital ID. But then there's other videos where people are like, well, what happens if they don't have a phone that can have a digital ID? And they're like, oh, well, in that case, we will provide solutions. So they'll make it seem like you have to have it. But if you can have something that doesn't hold it and you have a genuine excuse, then, you know, it's much, much better. Obviously opting out, guys, like not signing up for this. And I don't know if the laws have changed, but I believe in Australia they have to give you an alternative. So they can't force you. And if a company is saying you can only sign up with the digital ID, they're actually breaking the law and they have to give you an option. But they will make that option very difficult. At my old rental, I was just trying to get my bond back. And they made it seem like the only option to get my bond back was to, through the RBA, what's it called? I don't know. Anyway.
RTA.
Maybe. Anyway, they made it seem like you had to sign up through the digital ID, but actually, like if you call up and say, I don't want it to, then they'll give it. So they're going to make it inconvenient. They will. Okay. But you can legally opt out. They have to provide a solution. And I think the longer you can hold that off, the better. And again, it's not linking everything to it.
And with that, if we don't have to supply a digital ID, especially in online occurrences, I'm not saying you should do this. In fact, I would never suggest this. But hypothetically, you don't have to use your personal identification. You could hypothetically purchase one. You could... Grandparents, they're not going to do anything crazy. Hey, Pop, mind if I borrow your license? And take a photo, Take a photo of Pop's license. There are alternatives. And it's important to think of those alternatives instead of just succumbing and straight away going this, because in this life, everything is so convenient, and it's going to be we'll be even in a line to get into somewhere. Everyone will be having their digital ID and it'll be boop, boop, boop. And you'll be there and you'll be like, I'm going to get boop, boop, I'm going to get this out. And it's going to be a whole process and all your friends are waiting on you. And it's like, it'd be so much more convenient if I just got the digital ID.
Yeah.
But, at what cost?
Yeah, exactly. And we do live such a privileged life. We really do. We have everything at our fingertips. And I think we just need to bring it back in and be like, okay, this is going to be mildly inconvenient, me not getting it. But also, it's going to be very inconvenient getting it.
Yeah.
It's going to cause you way more havoc in the future.
Go back to, I remember when I was in I was 15, 16 in Brisbane, and I had the flip phone and I just carried cash everywhere and I was sweet. I had no issues. It was great.
Have a CD in your car to listen to music.
I still do the diary. I have to write and cross everything out. Otherwise, I don't feel like things get done.
Yeah.
I'm still like that. I have nothing online calendar-wise.
I need that satisfying bit.
Yeah.
The next is having a community around you, I think will be vital. And, we've seen how COVID was so isolating for those who didn't have community. And I think it makes me so happy to know that I have all of you guys and so many other people who don't agree with the digital ID, who aren't going to be signing up. And I think we can all come together, find different solutions because everyone has different talents and really stick together. That's very, very important. Otherwise, you will be... breakable. The next is, I think, reducing how much you're using digital stuff as well, because the more you're reliant on it, the more it's going to be harder to say no. So I think, as I've just given you all these examples, we do take a lot of these things for granted, and it's just try and, write things down instead. Try and use cash. Try and even consume just less social media. Connect with your friends actually in person, not online. And I think that goes into, when you talk about positive, is I think the most rebellious thing you can do right now is, despite all the crazy shit that's happening, is staying joyful and staying positive. Because when we're fearful and when we're in that state, when I first heard about the digital IDs, I went down a dark rabbit hole. I genuinely did. I was staying up till 2 a.m. watching fearful clickbaity videos that provided no solution, only fear. And I just felt so scared, so helpless and paralyzed. And I wasn't doing anything. Yeah. And I took a week of not consuming any of that. And lo and behold, I felt so much better. And it's not about burying your head in the sand and saying, la, 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 I don't want to hear this. This is too much. I just hope that won't happen. No, we still need to acknowledge this is real. There are real things. But I think then we need to say, what are we going to do about it and still stay joyful? I literally have a group chat that Marcus is in, and we're literally called the Joyful Rebels. Obviously, I titled us that because it's just
yeah, that wasn't me.
that was not Marcus. Because I really want us to be able to rebel, but in a loving, kind way, not in a hateful way, not in anger. Because we still need to live our life. We still need to enjoy this life. And if we're just going down rabbit holes, learning all the negatives, but no solution, like how is that helpful? That's not. So we're staying joyful, people. Is this something I can control or not? And if it's not anything I can control, then I need to let go of it. Digital IDs, they're probably happening. They're probably going to come in. But it's like we do have a lot of things we can do to create choice and option for ourselves. And I do also think creating like an income of your own that's not tied to a job is very powerful because, again, I lost my job during COVID because I chose not to get the vaccine. So it's just like if you can control your income yourself as much as possible, and making that be able to work from wherever in case you do need to leave the country, depending on rules, and just like trying to earn as much right now whilst things aren't crazy. Like this is just like the simmering of like a storm might happen. A storm is brewing. So it's just like, again, prep for that cyclone. I think earning as much money as possible, creating that freedom for yourself. For me, it's buying more Bitcoin, it's investing, it's diversifying, but also staying joyful and keeping that positive mind, body, and spirit. I think if you're stressed out, you're not healthy, you're not hanging out with good friends, and you're just like in this negative spiral, that's not helpful. I think we need to be the healthiest we've ever been. Like cut out all the toxins in your foods, cut out all the toxins in your products. And you don't need to do this overnight. Just slowly do it.
And the toxins in your media consumption.
And the toxins in your media consumption. And even if like now my algorithm is just feeding me digital ID stuff. And now I'm trying to like look up like, I don't know, like fluffy bunnies because I'm like,
just click not interested. That's what I do whenever I see shit that I don't want to see now. You just click on it and be like not interested and then it will.
I've been doing that with women that wear slightly less clothing.
Yeah, same.
Smart.
Yep.
Very respectful. You guys are like, oh, I'm not interested.
Yeah,
no, not today.
I'm trying to reprogram my brain to not, go down a rabbit hole of then looking at like all the stuff that's linked to. So I just go not interested. So I just like
Not
it stops the spiral. And it's just like boom.
Yeah.
Not interested works, but what I've found is more effective is you actually report it.
Okay.
You can report it for anything, and like if you report a few things related to certain topics, like the keyword will just disappear.
Okay, well, now I know how to think. But yeah, I think it's like what you're consuming is very, very important. And I think the most like valuable asset we will have now and in the future is our attention. And everybody's attention span is cooked, like cooked. And I've been like and I don't even have social media on my phone because I just know like those blocking apps, whatever, like I just know I'll be too tempted. So I just don't have it on my phone. I delete that temptation. But then I find myself scrolling on Strava or scrolling on like my emails. Do you know what I mean? And I've been noticing when I walk into a shop, I'm like, oh wait, what did I need to get? Like, and I'm like, bro, my memory, which leads me to my
the emails is crazy.
I do that.
That's insane.
I do that.
Dude, isn't it crazy? But I think
and then I go to promotions just to try and get something, right? Because I'm like, there's nothing interesting here, so I go promotions. Oh, what Culture Kings has got a special.
What about people that utilize social media for promotion of things like their business? What advice would you give to those people that want to post a video, like film a video, post a video? Like your phone's obviously probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Do you just be like, okay, upload it to maybe like the laptop and then post from there? Is that a good option maybe instead?
Well, I have this exact thing because I post for my business and then also for like the controversial stuff I post. And I literally have a separate phone and I call it my cocaine phone. I stole this from Chris Williams and it's my cocaine phone because it's like so addicting. I mean, haven't even done it, but I'm assuming that drug would be addicting just like social media is. So I have a completely separate phone for it. And then I try and have like set days as well. So maybe I'll just be like, I'm only posting 2 days a week because I used to fall into the trap of like, I need to post every single day for growth and stories. Do you know what? Since I've been posting true content that I actually am passionate about, I've gained so many more views, so many more followers from posting a literal like video once a week than what I used to 5 times a week in stories. So don't think that you need to post more, and having a separate phone, honestly, like, and I know like that might be privileged to be able to have 2 phones, but I really think it's worth it. You can turn it off and you could literally just give it to your housemate if you want, because it is tempting, and to be like, can you only give this to me on Tuesdays and Thursdays?
It doesn't have to be a top of the line new iPhone either. You could have the old iPhone, I don't know, 12 or something, 11, 12 or something, and probably still be able to post on that.
Because
Or
I,
get a flip
I
phone for your other
film
one.
Yeah.
I film my videos on here because it has a good camera, and then I just airdrop it to my other phone and just edit it on the app and post it. And then I also set a timer to be mindful. So on this phone, I'll be like, set a timer for 30 minutes so that when it goes off, you're like, okay, 30 whole minutes has passed. I usually give it like 15 minutes actually, because 30 minutes is a long time. You can consume a lot of content. So take back your brain, take back peacefulness, being bored. That leads me to my last prop, which is this brain training.
Nice.
Which I got the other day, which has been so fun. And it's just like, I've realized that the way to get off your phone is to create fun things to do, which I do a lot of fun things. But when you're like, I don't feel like going out, but I want to do something, that's probably why I'm bored scrolling on my emails. Well, now I turn to my brain training.
Nice. Yeah. I really like the idea of that because obviously I've read a lot of books in the past, and this is something I've realized. I used to read a significant amount of fictional and non-fictional literature. And in the last 2 or 3 years, my attention span since I've left university has gotten worse and worse and worse over time. I'm really struggling now to read for 5 minutes without having to scroll.
Yeah.
And I've identified that is a huge problem. But I also, from my reading of the literature, know that the brain is so plastic, like a concept called neuroplasticity, where you're able to retrain your brain into patterns that you want it to be able to do. So I know that I will have the ability to once again sit there for 3 hours and read a book because I'm really engaged in it.
Yeah.
So it's something, if everyone's like, oh, it's just so hard. Well, yes, it is hard.
It is.
Getting into good routines and training that, even if it's just like 1 minute more a day or 2 minutes more, you will eventually get to a point that you'll be able to spend more time on activities that promote good brain health rather than poor brain health.
Yeah.
The system has been engineered to basically create brains that have short attention spans, are basically just, I would call them anxious brains, to be honest. It's promoting anxious brains that need new stimulus all the time to be able to feel whole.
Yeah, and that's why when I'm stressed, I find that's when I'm stressed, scrolling Strava or emails. And then now I've been able to call myself out and be like, Andy, what are you trying to seek right now? Oh, I'm actually feeling stressed, or I'm actually procrastinating. And you actually have to treat yourself like a child and be like, okay, what do you actually need right now? And then give yourself that. You're not going to be perfect. You'll keep making mistakes. But I think like the attention span thing is really important. And I've actively been trying to just do one thing at a time instead of being like, I'm going to watch this TV show and do emails. No. I'm either doing emails or I'm watching TV, because it is so tempting to like multitask, but our brain actually can't do that. It's just quickly flicking from one thing to the next.
Yeah, it'd be really beautiful to get to a point where we do start to take back power of our brains, and then we don't actually need social media to feel whole and like feel like we need to engage with social media to be able to communicate and not feel lonely from the world.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the purpose for each person to go and practice some of these activities is to get to a point where you are just practicing this. If you need social media for your business and all that sort of thing, do the separate phone thing. I'm personally going to try just the upload to the laptop and do it all on there just to see if that works for me, just because I know that I don't actually spend as much time on this as I do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's what 100%. I'm going to try.
Also, we haven't given a solution for the social media things. And I don't know if like Marcus might need to reword what I'm about to say, but essentially, if you were to get a VPN, are we allowed to say this?
Yeah.
There are technologies out there that will allow you to present an IP address from outside of Australia.
So that you don't have to verify your identity.
And there are also alternate social medias that aren't covered in the band. So Discord is not covered. There are a lot of
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp is under the Meta umbrella. So,
I thought you said, what's that?
No.
So there are external options if you don't want to go down the VPN route. I believe that they're actually trying to pass legislation that will criminalize VPNs in Australia. So be aware of that if you do choose to go through an alternate source. But just like the COVID thing with the vaccine passports, like there are options out there if you're feeling a little bit cheeky.
There are 100% always options, and just always know that even though it's presented, you have to get this,
Yeah.
there is always an option.
There's one quote that I've got here in relation to the constant authoritarian creep by every government around the world. They are always vying for more control because power is a zero-sum game. You're either gaining or you're losing. And I was reading one of the Dune books by Frank Herbert, and this sentence came up, and I think it distills the constant conflict between those in power and those at the mercy of those in power. Just like the ULEZ cameras and the Blade Runners cutting them down, there is always this tension, and people will push back if things become too authoritarian. Frank Herbert says that one uses power by grasping it lightly. To grasp it too strongly is to be taken over by power and thus to become its victim. And I would say that for governments who are constantly trying to control their citizens with a tighter and tighter fist over time, you will be met with resistance because that is human nature.
100%. Yeah. If you pour concrete over grass, grass will grow. So it's just like,
Yeah.
even though this feels scary, I really, really do believe in the power of people. And if you look at what happened in Nepal's like Gen Z citizens overthrew their own government when they tried to take out all social media. So it's just like, power to the people. I really, I have a lot of faith in America. I think Americans really fight for their freedom, and I think they're not going to have a bar of this if it comes in how we think it will. So I think just keep standing up, fight the good fight in a loving, kind way, and I really think everything will be okay eventually. It will be. I think it will get tough for a period of time, but I don't think that will last forever. Just like COVID didn't last forever, I don't think it will last forever. So just be strong and have courage.
I love the Hope Core.
You're an
It's
amazing
epic.
guest. Thank you for your points. And you've been listening to the Outlaws podcast.
Thank you very much.